Former Penn State coach in trouble, now accused of sexually abusing a teenager. Jerry Sandusky was once considered the top candidate to replace Joe Paterno at Penn State, but now he'll face 40 counts of sex-related charges. The allegations date back to 1995 and are part of a 2-year investigation with state police and the Attorney General's office.
Cuffed and charged. And a former Penn State coach isn't the only one involved in a sex crimes investigation. The major school leaders who also face charges tonight. Major developments on a big story that we've been following. Exclusive video from our sister station WJAC as former Penn State coach and Washington, Pennsylvania native Jerry Sandusky is arrested today on child sex charges. And he's not the only one. This investigation now includes high-ranking officials at Penn State. Plus, we've learned what Joe Paterno knew about it. Here's what's new in the case tonight. Sandusky was arrested today on charges of sexually abusing 8 boys. The state attorney general's office says he met the victims through his involvement in the Second Mile, an organization that operates programs for young people. The AG's office says Sandusky used his position within the university to prey on young boys. The investigation started after a mother of one of the children reported the allegations. The state attorney general investigation then found accusations as far back as 7 years, including cases Penn State officials allegedly knew about. Athletic director Tim Curley is charged with perjury and failure to report, as is Vice President for Finance and Business Gary Schultz.
2 top high-ranking Penn State administrators, including the athletic director, stepped down overnight and face arraignment today amid sex abuse allegations.
Channel 11's Kara Sapida has been following this story all morning long. She joins us now with those new developments. Kara.
Jennifer, these top 2 officials are the athletic director and the vice president. Both are now being charged, accused of lying and covering up these sex crimes against young boys instead of reporting them to police. The athletic director is Tim Curley, the vice president Gary Schultz. They're expected to turn themselves in later today in Harrisburg, accused of covering up for former defensive coordinator Jerry Sandusky. Sandusky was arraigned this weekend. He's charged with sexually abusing 8 young boys starting in 1994 and as recent as 2009.
This is not a case about football. It's a case about children who have had their innocence stolen from them.
Big new developments in the Penn State sex abuse scandal. We're there as more arrests are made.
And we're finding out where Joe Paterno figures in all this.
2 top-ranking officials surrender to police in the Penn State sex abuse scandal that has made national headlines. Investigators say they knew about the suspected child abuse by a former coach and didn't tell anyone. David?
Well, Peggy, at the center of this investigation is Jerry Sandusky, but today 2 Penn State administrators above him turned themselves in. Athletic director Tim Curley and senior vice president Gary Schultz not only accused of covering up the alleged abuse, but lying to a grand jury about it. This is such a major story. We sent Channel 11's Courtney Brennan from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg to cover these latest and new developments.
David, earlier this afternoon, just a few miles from the Capitol here in Harrisburg, 2 very prominent, very high-ranking Penn State administrators surrendered and appeared in front of a district judge on very serious charges. And there was an absolute onslaught of photographers and reporters. And as soon as these 2 men got out of their cars, we were on them and asking questions about these allegations. Anything to say about these charges? It was a media firestorm this afternoon, and we were at the front of it. Anything to say, Mr. Curley? 2 high-ranking Penn State administrators were arraigned on charges that they covered up an explosive child sex scandal involving a former football coach.
Their inaction likely allowed a child predator to continue to victimize children for many, many years.
Investigators say athletic director Tim Curley and senior vice president Gary Schultz failed to report suspected child abuse by former defensive coordinator Jerry Sandusky.
This is a case about a sexual predator accused of using his position within the community and the university to prey on numerous young boys for more than a decade.
Attorney General Linda Kelly says Curley and Schultz had been told of at least 1 instance where a grad assistant reported that Sandusky sexually assaulted a naked boy in the team locker room shower. Kelly says the 2 administrators never attempted to learn the identity of the child in the shower, and that Curley denied the assistant's report, saying Sandusky was merely horsing around.
What about Joe Paterno? Well, we know he's not facing any charges, but Rick Earl continues our live Team 11 coverage with more on the answer to that question. Rick?
Yeah, David, while there are a lot of questions swirling around Joe Paterno's involvement, the state attorney general says Paterno is not a target of the investigation into the handling of the sex abuse accusations. Now, what did Joe Paterno know, and did he do enough to stop it? Those are some of the questions being asked today. Investigators said Paterno followed the proper procedures when he became aware of the allegation, reporting them to the two top administrators. But investigators say that information was never relayed to authorities.
Sex abuse scandal rocks Penn State University, brings criminal charges, and forces some top officials to step down. All weekend, we've been following this unfolding story for you, and it centers around abuse allegations against former coach Jerry Sandusky.
This case dates back 15 years, and tomorrow the head coach Joe Paterno could address it at his weekly football news conference. Here is the very latest on all this. Penn State Athletic Director Tim Curley accused of failing to report the suspected child abuse. Curley, who was placed on leave, was in court today, and he posted bond, as did Penn State Senior Vice President Gary Schultz. He's also accused of not reporting the abuse. Schultz has stepped down from his position. Pennsylvania Attorney General Linda Kelly calls Sandusky a child predator. He's accused of molesting 8 boys, including 1 child in a shower at a campus football facility. Kelly says Sandusky was enabled by Curley and Schultz.
Their inaction likely allowed a child predator to continue to victimize children for many, many years.
Meantime, investigators say Paterno followed proper procedure when he reported the allegations to 2 top administrators. Still, police said he had a moral responsibility to call them.
At the core of this scandal is the university itself and its well-respected football program. Tonight, Channel 11's Gordon Lesh traveled to the State College campus to talk to Penn State's biggest fans, its students and alumni.
Good evening. The people I've talked to say they're embarrassed and disgusted by the allegations, and if true, they can't understand why it took so long for Jerry Sandusky to face charges.
So much noise on the outside. So much silence from Joe Paterno. We've got every angle on this breaking story, from his job status
to a 9th victim in the Penn State sexual abuse scandal. Penn State sex scandal explodes into a media circus. Joe Paterno swarmed by reporters. He didn't say much as he left his home. He was heading to Penn State's football practice facility.
And when he walked out, reporters met him again. He still refused to answer their questions.
I know you guys got a lot of good questions, and I'd like to answer them. I can't do it now. We're going to try. I'm sorry the press conference didn't turn out, but we'll try to have another one soon.
We don't know when Paterno will speak publicly again, and this is looking like it's the end of an era there at Penn State. No one from the university is talking yet, but reports are leaking from inside that Joe Paterno is on his way out. The Associated Press reported this afternoon that support from the Board of Trustees was eroding. The New York Times reporting that Penn State was already talking about an exit strategy for Joe Paterno. Joe Pa's son, Scott, said on Twitter that talk was premature, and he followed that up outside the family home.
There's been no contact about anything to do with anybody stepping down. That's all we have really at this time.
And we have live Team 11 coverage tonight.
Target 11 investigator Rick Earl on a 9th victim coming forward now in the Jerry Sandusky case. But first, Alan Jennings, he was there when Penn State decided to silence Joe Paterno today. Alan?
Rocked by the sex scandal today, legendary coach Joe Paterno refused to face our cameras, Peggy. Every Tuesday for decades, he'd face reporters to talk about football. Today, he was a no-show. Even one university official, when we tried to get his name, he tried to wiggle out.
What's that?
Sir, can you identify yourself, please?
Jeff Nelson.
What about your title, sir?
Assistant Athletic Director for Communications.
Well, Peggy, this case just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Today, state police confirming for us that yet another person has come forward accusing Jerry Sandusky of sexual abuse years ago. Now, that man, who's now in his 20s, came forward after seeing news reports that Sandusky had been arrested and charged with sexually abusing 8 boys during a 10-year period.
I'll tell you how much this means to us. All right?
A show of support tonight for Joe Paterno. Penn State students rallying for the coach as the sex scandal on campus continues to grow. And tonight on 11 and 11, we have major new developments in the sex abuse scandal.
The Board of Trustees at Penn State held an emergency teleconference tonight. About 15 minutes ago, they released this statement. We hear those of you who feel betrayed, and we want to assure all of you that the board will take swift, decisive action. On Friday, they will appoint a special committee to undertake a full and complete investigation of the circumstances that gave rise to the grand jury report. And here's what else is happening. A Philadelphia TV station is reporting tonight new victims have come forward accusing Jerry Sandusky of abuse, as many as 20. Support for PSU President Graham Spanier appears to be fading even among university trustees. And for the first time, Joe Paterno speaks to his fans who gathered in front of his home. We have Team 11 coverage for you tonight. Julie Fine was at Paterno's home as he addressed the crowd. Channel 11's Gordon Lash talked with a local man who knows Jerry Sandusky well, who also helped to write the book on him. We start tonight with Julie Fine in State College.
Joe Paterno came outside his house tonight with a huge audience.
It's hard for me to tell you how much this means to me. You guys, I've lived for this place. I've lived for people like you guys and girls, and I'm just so happy to see that, that you feel so strongly. The kids that were victims whatever they want to say, I think we ought to say a prayer for them.
Penn State coach Joe Paterno tells his players he is stepping down. He's been under fire since word broke of a sex abuse scandal. State police say he should have done more to stop a former coach accused of assaulting young boys.
An official announcement on Paterno's retirement is expected later today. Paterno himself just released a statement. He says, I am absolutely devastated by the developments in this case. I grieve for the children and their families. I pray for their comfort and relief. Paterno went on to say that the fallout from the abuse scandal led to his retirement, saying, quote, that's why I have decided to announce my retirement at the end of the season. At this moment, the Board of Trustees should not spend a single minute discussing my status. Paterno added, this is a tragedy, one of the great sorrows of my life. With the benefit of hindsight, I wish I had done more. Channel 11's Julie Fine has been staking out Paterno's home. She has the latest from State College.
We just got to the stadium a little while ago. A lot happening this morning. Here is the latest. Joe Paterno just returned home after his retirement was announced. We've been there most of the morning. The media is camped out there as well. We have a crew there working on this story right now. Now, here's what happened leading up to that announcement. We have video of the coach leaving his house in a white SUV driven by a woman. A little while later, his wife left there as well. Then word came of his retirement. His son, Scott, who is his attorney, has been in and out all day, not taking any questions from any of us.
We heard that Coach Paterno had called a special team meeting at 11 a.m. here at the Lash football building behind me. We got here at about 10:45 and saw several players walking in. They were only here for about 15 minutes, and then they came outside and they said that Coach Paterno came in, talked with them, and actually broke down and cried while he told them that he will retire at the end of the season and that Saturday will be his final home game here at Penn State.
Well, it was really difficult to get any information out of Penn State today, but late this afternoon, I finally did. There will be that emergency meeting of the Board of Trustees tonight. Now, what we did, we went over to Old Main, and I managed to track the chairman down. This is the chairman of the Board of Trustees, Steve Garvin, as he entered his office. Do you have a quick second? He wouldn't stop to talk, but we kept trying until we were finally asked to leave. So we stayed by the president's office as school employees walked in there and in the trustees' offices. Sir, any comment on what's going on? Anything you can tell us right now? At that point, nobody would comment on what is happening at Penn State until finally, when we wouldn't leave, I got some answers. Is Graham Spanier still the president of this university?
Yes, he is.
We pressed on and found that the board will meet tonight. And as we left, right outside, yet another protest. Since last night, students have been calling on the university president to step down.
I would hope that everyone would agree that what we're doing is what we believe in our best judgment is in the best long-term interest of the university, which is much larger than athletic programs.
Penn State's football coach Joe Paterno and president fired. A major announcement just a few minutes ago by the Board of Trustees.
And it's getting very emotional on campus. A live picture from Penn State University, where students gathering there on the main streets and in Old Main in the aftermath of this huge announcement. Major breaking story going on, all unfolding within just the last half hour.
And tonight we're covering every angle with a team of reporters. Channel 11's Courtney Brennan live now in State College, where the board just announced the firing of long-term legendary football coach Joe Paterno and Penn State President Graham Spanier. Courtney.
Darius, we did finally hear from the Board of Trustees, and we had been waiting for some sort of statement from them all evening long. The press corps was basically chasing them across this campus, trying to nail them down, trying to get a straight answer. And when they finally did make a statement, they made a very big statement indeed, ousting both Coach Joe Paterno and College President Graham Spanier. Now, Paterno's resignation that he gave earlier today basically wasn't accepted, and the board told him tonight that he is no longer the Penn State coach, effective immediately. Tom Bradley, he will be the acting head coach this Saturday. Also gone, College President Graham Spanier, who released a written statement about 20 minutes ago saying he always acted honorably, but that the buck stops here. Now take a listen to what the Board of Trustees had to say about all of this earlier this evening.
Are you aware about the number of students that were marching back and forth on campus when they thought there was a possibility of this happening? And therefore, what are you concerned about happening tonight?
I think we have to do what we think was the right thing to do in the circumstances. There may be actions and reactions that flow from that. We can't make our decisions based on what may happen. We have to do what we think is right.
And continuing breaking news coverage, students gather on Penn State's main campus there after learning Joe Paterno and the university president Graham Spanier were fired tonight. Channel 11's Julie Fine has just arrived. This statement came in from former head coach Paterno. He was speaking in his house to students. He said, quote, "Right now, I'm not the football coach, and that's something I have to get used to."
We now want to catch up with Julie Fine. She's live on Penn State's campus, where students have been gathering, obviously, in reaction to this news. Julie.
On East Beaver Avenue right now. I want to get out of the way quickly and show you what's going on here. You are looking at thousands of students right now, and I mean it. It's got to be about 1,000 students right in front of them. You can see a bunch of police cars. We heard at the news conference tonight they were concerned about what was going to happen. So far, we haven't seen any problems. What we're hearing is just a lot of people upset about Joe Paterno. Take a look at that sign right there, Joe Pa or Bust.
Again, our big breaking news coverage today, the Penn State sex abuse scandal. Thousands of students riot in State College last night after Joe Paterno is fired. News of Paterno's firing making headlines throughout the country. This is our news partner, the Tribune Review's headline today. Paterno fired, scandal ends, 61-year career.
Now, this story has been developing all throughout the evening and morning. So here are the latest details that you need to know about. Paterno fired late last night by the Penn State Board of Trustees. Defensive coordinator Tom Bradley will take over as the interim coach at Penn State. He'll be on the sideline Saturday when they play Nebraska. University President Graham Spanier also has been fired. Executive Vice President Rodney Erickson serving as the interim president. Now, these moves take effect immediately. So moments after the announcement, students began rioting on the Penn State campus. Our crew was actually caught right in the middle of it.
Our team coverage starts with Channel 11's Julie Fine at State College.
We actually just had to leave downtown because of everything that happened. Our photographers were in the thick of everything. They first went down to take a picture of the overturned news truck. While they were there, they were hit with mace, they were hit with mud, and they were hit with water bottles. Now, I was up the street with Courtney Brennan. We were actually in our news trucks because we wanted to make sure nothing happened to them. While we were there, a small group of Penn State students told us we needed to move immediately because they thought that they were going to be overturning more trucks. So that's what we did. We eventually met up with our photographers a short time later. Again, a very difficult evening with all of the students on the streets. At one point, they did get a text from the university to return home. In State College, Julie Fine, Channel 11 News.
And we should also mention that no one was hurt when that news truck was tipped over. It was an emotional scene overnight outside of Paterno's house. That's where the former coach and his wife greeted hundreds of fans who gathered there to show their support. Our team coverage continues this morning with Channel 11's Brandon Hudson.
Jennifer, you saw just how crazy it was in Julie's story. It wasn't like that outside of Joe Paterno's house. Some of his supporters left flowers on his doorstep. Last night, Joe Pa and his wife Sue walked outside their house to this. Paterno's wife looks like she was moved to tears. Paterno didn't have much to say. He did thank everyone who's been by his side during the scandal.
You guys are great, all of you. When I say guys, you know what I mean. You know what I mean, girls too. All right, hey, look, get a good night's sleep. All right, study. All right, we still got things to do. All right, I'm out of it maybe now. A phone call put me out of it, but we'll go from there, okay? Hey, good luck, everybody.
If I grieve for the victims, I grieve for the families. Deeply saddened by that. It's with great emotion that I say that. And, you know, the football part, we will get working on that right away. Right now, I think you should know where our team is toward this whole issue, and is toward those children, it's toward their families, and our thoughts and our prayers are with them.
Due to multiple threats against him, they've decided it would be in everyone's best interest for him not to be at Beaver Stadium. McQuarrie is the assistant coach who first told Joe Paterno about the sex abuse allegation involving Jerry Sandusky. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm David Johnson.
And I'm Darieth Chisholm. And we're learning more information about the scandal. A news station in San Antonio reports police there are looking into an alleged incident that may have Jerry Sandusky facing even more charges.
We definitely have seen an increased security presence. The state police helicopter has been hovering above us for about the last hour. We also got some new information from police. They are calling in extra officers from across the state to help them handle any situation. Like we just saw, that new information about the football team with Coach Mike McQuarrie coming out, and police here on campus just want to be prepared for any possible scenario.
The eyes of the nation are on you.
Speaking directly to Penn State student body, Governor Tom Corbett pleaded with them after last night's riots made national headlines.
Please, please, behave.
A massive show of support for the alleged victims of the Penn State abuse scandal. Thousands of students gather on campus for a candlelight vigil.
The candlelight vigil wrapped up about 45 minutes ago. Nearly everyone you saw last hour that was on Old Main Lawn is gone. In case you missed it, nearly 2,000 people gathered on Old Main Lawn to honor the alleged sexual abuse victims. Students, staff, and alumni stood shoulder to shoulder on the steps near the Old Main Lawn. The rest of the crowd covered 2/3 of that place. It was very tough to walk a step without bumping into someone. At times, they stood in silence, reflecting on the scandal and the events of this week.
1 week ago, longtime Penn State coach Jerry Sandusky was arrested, charged with molesting young boys. Today, Penn State football returned, with students sending messages in support of the victims and, in many cases, in support of fired head coach Joe Paterno. Security was tight all around the Penn State campus and Beaver Stadium today. You could see extra police everywhere. So far, there have been no reported problems. We have Team 11 coverage inside and outside of the stadium, starting with Brandon Hudson on the game day atmosphere on this very unique day.
Game day here at Beaver Stadium. We walked around the entire stadium to get a feel of what it's like this Saturday.
It was a very emotional week for all of us, not only myself, but for the coaches and the team. We had so many different variables that kept coming up each and every day, but we hang tough. They fought till the end.
Everybody is talking about Jerry Sandusky speaking to NBC's Bob Costas last night on Rock Center. Channel 11's Rick Earl talked to a defense attorney about what it means to his case. Rick?
Well, David, did that network interview last night help or hurt Jerry Sandusky? And does it present any legal problems for him? I sat down with a local attorney who says even though Sandusky selected his words very carefully, it could come back to haunt him.
I am innocent of those charges.
Jerry Sandusky denying the allegations in a telephone interview Monday night with NBC's Bob Costas. We wanted to talk to Mike McQuarrie, but he wouldn't come outside. But his wife did, and we were the only TV station there. Just wondered if we could talk if Mike would be available to talk at all? Not available. You can't say anything?
Joe Paterno has lung cancer. His son Scott just made it public within the past hour. The 84-year-old Paterno went to the campus infirmary and then the hospital Wednesday. He was treated and released. Meantime, Target 11 uncovers a disturbing discovery on several university-owned computers.
Child pornography. Our investigator Rick Earl broke the story on WPXI.com.
Law enforcement sources tell me as part of the Jerry Sandusky investigation, agents are now looking at online child pornography traced to Penn State University computers. Sources tell Target 11 that child pornography was found at approximately 7 IP addresses in State College. 3 computers were off campus, but 4 of the computers were linked into the Penn State University network. They could belong to many different people, including students, staff, and teachers. All of the computers had images and videos of child pornography. Agents with the Attorney General's office obtained IP addresses and locations. A spokesman for the state Attorney General tells Target 11, quote, "We cannot comment on any ongoing grand jury investigation."
Jerry Sandusky is headed to trial. He and his team promise a fierce fight. There was no testimony, and this morning's hearing was over before it even began.
Jerry Sandusky waiving his preliminary hearing at the very last minute, meaning this case will play out at trial. We sent 2 crews from Pittsburgh to cover this big story in Center County. Let's begin tonight with Channel 11's Courtney Brennan, live to tell us what happened inside and outside of the courtroom today. Courtney.
This preliminary hearing only lasted about 2 minutes because Jerry Sandusky waived it as soon as court started this morning. His attorney then came outside and he spoke for more than an hour to reporters. He defended his client and he attacked one of the prosecution's key witnesses, Coach Mike McQueary. We were supposed to hear from Jerry Sandusky's alleged victims today. Instead, we heard again from Sandusky himself.
We fully intend to put together the best possible defense that we can do. To stay the course, to fight for 4 quarters. We await the opportunity to present our side.
After Sandusky waived his hearing, his defense attorney held an impromptu press conference where he attacked the credibility of Coach Mike McQueary. McQueary told the grand jury he saw Sandusky sexually assaulting a 10-year-old boy in the Penn State locker room showers back in 2002. Since then, there have been several reports that McQueary changed his story.
We know, for example, in emails that he said to his friends that he broke up the assault and he called the police, and yet the police tell us that there were never any calls made by Mike McQueary to them about this incident.
But attorneys for the alleged victims tell Target 11's Rick Earl that doesn't matter because of what they have to say. Rick is live in Bellefonte with that part of our Team 11 coverage now. Rick?
Well, David, attorneys for one of the victims came out swinging today, calling Jerry Sandusky a coward and saying his decision here to back down at the last minute amounted to yet another form of abuse. Jerry Sandusky left the courthouse after waiving his right to a preliminary hearing. That last-minute maneuver drew an angry response from attorneys who represent one of the alleged victims. They lashed out at both Sandusky and his attorney, Joe Amendola.
This lawyer has accused our client of fabricating, along with other people, this situation, and now to bail out and not face his accusers, you know, I think just tells you all you need to know about what's happened here.
Are you calling him a coward?
Yeah, I'm calling him a coward.
Jerry Sandusky's preliminary hearing gave us a glimpse at how his lawyers plan to attack the prosecution's case, and their focus is on Mike McQueary. Target 11's Rick Earl is in State College, and only at 11, he caught up with McQueary outside his home.
After waiving the preliminary hearing on Tuesday, Jerry Sandusky's legal team made it clear they plan to question the credibility of football coach Mike McQueary. So what does McQueary think about this new defense strategy? You really took a beating from Joe Amendola yesterday. Just wondered if you had anything to say.
No, not right now, guys. Thank you.
We tried to talk to McQueary as he returned to his State College home with his wife Wednesday morning. One day after Jerry Sandusky's attorney raised questions about what McQueary saw in the Penn State showers in 2002 when he was a grad assistant. McQueary told the grand jury he witnessed Jerry Sandusky raping a 10-year-old boy. But during the past month, his story has changed and evolved several times.
We know, for example, in emails that he said to his friends that he broke up the assault and he called the police, and yet the police tell us that there were never any calls made by Mike McQueary to them about this incident.
And now recent reports surfaced indicating that McQueary, who was placed on leave from the football team, never actually saw anything in the shower, but just heard sounds. Can you tell us what you saw in the showers, Mike?
Come on, go, come on, baby. Come on, let's go inside.
When asked if McQueary would have testified during the preliminary hearing, prosecutors offered only a very brief response.
I would imagine that he would have, yes.
We've heard 3 different stories about what Mike McQueary saw in the showers at Penn State a decade ago. We will likely have to wait until the trial next summer to hear the truth. In State College, Rick Earl, Channel 11 News.